The moment I turned 18, I moved from my small town. I moved as far away as I could, but I can't run from the memories of what happened to my best friend. The town I was born in was so small, it still had an open video rental store in these modern days of streaming. We only had two chain fast food places, and if you weren't a high school student working at one, you were a student that hung out at one after school. We used the ice cream place as our study group meet up after school. We would start off doing some homework, but never actually finished all of it. 5 minutes of homework, then the rest of the time spent talking about the new school gossip or any new book series. The four of us were the nerds of the school, and we all knew it. Our interests didn't always line up, but they weren't the norm, so the group had been formed. My best friend Jen was the one who got our group started. I was fine with just the two of us for the entire 4 years of high school, but she made friends with Lee and Dean. Soon, all of us made plans to hang out together, and I was happy for it. Jen and I knew each other since childhood. She lived a few houses down from me. Because we shared clothing and spent so much time together, people mistook us for sisters most of the time. But that changed in our second year of high school. Her parents had a rough patch, and she wasn't taking it very well. Anyone could see that, but it was so clear to me how much she was hurting. I did everything I could, but Jen just would not talk about it. I knew her parents had a plan to stay together until Jen graduated. The whole town knew, but no one would say it in front of her. At first, her change was just her mood. I would buy her snacks she liked for lunch and try to have her at my house as much as I could to get her away from what was worrying her. I guess I wasn't doing enough or going about it the right way. She dyed her hair black, then started to listen to pretty awful music. I knew she didn't actually like it, but it fit the style she was trying to give off. By the end of the year, she was full-blown goth, but got really angry if anyone called her that. She got angry at almost anything, by labels people tried to pin on her, angry about how there was nothing to do in our town, and angry over how people treated her after dressing all in black. I wonder if I was a bad friend to her. I wonder if there was anything I could have done, or if she would just reject any sort of help. By our third year, it was just the three of us. Jen had started to hang out with a different crowd. She was dating a guy named AJ. He had already graduated. I didn't like him all that much, but I think she only dated him for the free weed. Overall, the new crowd of friends weren't the best, but I didn't see them as dangerous. Yes, they smoked pot, but didn't do any other heavy drugs. They drank, but didn't get into fights. I think they all shoplifted from time to time, but it was such petty things no one bothered to try and catch them. I couldn't help but see them all as kids trying to look badass, but too scared to actually do anything. It was all for show, so that was the reason why I wasn't worried about her new friends. I was walking home from the ice cream place when I saw Jen and her friends sitting in the park, music blaring. Some of them drank and others smoked. Jen saw me, smiled and waved over. We hadn't been spending that much time together, but we were still friends. If I saw her getting into too much trouble, I would get serious to pull her out of it. We never spoke about how I didn't like her new friends, so she never forced me to hang out with them. The sun was setting, and I debated on just waving back and heading home, but I hadn't spoken to her for a while. I missed her. I walked over, standing a bit awkwardly in front of her. "Hey nerd, want to hear a bitchin' story?" Jen wrapped an arm around my shoulder and pulled me in. "Oh yeah, tell her. It's a good one. Maybe she has other ghost stories. She read a lot, right?" One of the guys said, looking up from where he was sitting. He was digging a hole in the dirt with a stick. In that moment, I felt like these guys weren't really that bad. They acted tough, but were all just a different type of nerd like me. I mean, what kind of person hangs out in a park telling ghost stories? Someone who doesn't have a lot going on. "Alright, so you know the big-ass house at the edge of town?" Jen asked. She jumped on the play area meant for children, letting her feet dangle. "The one that belonged to the Glenn family?" I asked. The Glenn family was one that founded the town 100 or so years ago. The old mansion was abandoned for years. It was so run down, not even us high school kids wanted to risk going in and falling through the floors, breaking something. Sometimes people went inside hearing it was haunted, but always ended up getting injured from the state of decay inside. Yeah, the Glenn family, that one. So, story goes, the Glenn family all got sick or died in accidents soon after getting the town started. Rose, the oldest child, inherited a lot of cash after her father died. A young woman like that with all this dough was a target for shitty old dudes. A pretty young wife and free money? Great deal, right? She knew this was, so she married her cousin to keep gross men away. First cousin? I asked. Yep. Gross, one of the guys said, but we let Jen keep going. Anyway, she thought she was safe keeping the money in the family. She didn't want to have kids, so marrying her cousin was perfect. He wouldn't try anything because they're family, right? But he wanted her cash and a pretty wife for the bedroom. He made a plan to get rid of her. A simple one. He bashed her over the head and dragged her off to the train tracks in the dead of night. If a train hits her, he keeps the money, and people are just going to think she offed herself. He even made a fake suicide note. But what he didn't know was she was still alive on those tracks. She woke up, started to drag herself off the tracks, but wasn't fast enough. The train ran over her. Some stories say it took off her legs, and others say it was half her body. Apparently, she was still alive when the train stopped, because somehow the conductor saw he ran over someone and stopped. She died pretty fast after, but cursed her cousin with her dying breath. Spooky, I said, as the boys around us made noises trying to make the last sentence a bit scarier. But this is the best part. Her cousin saw her ghost dragging itself up towards the house after she was buried. He kept seeing her over and over again. Finally, not being able to take seeing her ghost every night, dragging itself towards the house and disappearing, he went out, got in front of her, and begged her to leave. Her ghost agreed to leave him alone as long as there were fresh roses on her grave at all times. He agreed, pretty happy to be rid of her. He put roses on her grave, but the next night they were gone. Again, it happened. Even after paying someone to watch, the roses just kept disappearing. He went mad and even spent the entire fortune he got from killing her on fresh roses. Jen finished, pretty pleased with her story. I really didn't find it scary. Ghosts weren't scary to me. Coming across a bear in the woods, now that was scary, because it was something that could actually happen. But it was good for Jen to be kept busy by ghost stories and not getting into trouble. But somehow, she mixed the two things together. We found her grave. Huh? I asked. I knew what she meant, but I didn't understand why it was a big deal. The family did live in town, story true or not. Of course, some would have been buried around here. It has fresh roses on it. The tombstone is old, but you can still make out her name, Rose Glenn. We're going to take the roses off. My mood dropped. I knew Jen was changing, but I never thought she would do something as disrespectful as pillaging a grave. Some minor trespassing, sure, but this wasn't something the person I knew would do. And what was the point? I didn't see how anyone would get some thrill from stealing from a grave. That sounds stupid. Why don't you just play Bloody Mary or something? Why risk getting caught and arrested over something like this? I said, arms crossed. Because of the risk, it's fun, one of the boys argued. I didn't know his name. It's not much of a risk. I don't think they even have a guard, Jen said, shrugging her shoulders. Yes, they do. Ross got wasted and went to the cemetery on his way home and knocked over some graves. One was like the mayor's great-grandmother, so he was pissed. They have a guard now. If you're caught going in so soon after what happened, I'm sure the mayor is going to want to charge you for something. Instead of her face falling, Jen smiled at me. You're right. She is smart, a different guy said, looking over at me. I think his name was Kevin, but I could be wrong. Thanks for the warning. Want to be our lookout? Jen was still smiling and she brought me into a tight hug. I refused, and then refused some more after she kept hugging. The plan was her and two of the guys going in at midnight and stealing some roses. I would stand outside and text her if I saw any cars or guards. I was a model student, so no one would suspect me of any wrongdoing just standing outside a cemetery at midnight. I kept refusing, but Jen had always been able to wear me down. I agreed on the condition of after she takes a rose, gets a photo of it, she puts the rose back. At most, I would let her keep a few petals. But I would not be able to look out she was going to rob a grave. She gave me another tight hug and let me go now that the sun had fully set. As teenage crimes went, what she wanted to do wasn't all that bad. It wasn't really a crime, just in poor taste. But I had a bad feeling about it. If I let her keep the rose, it would encourage her to do other things. It was a downward slope. I didn't want to know what she had planned next. I wanted to nip the ideas in the bud, as it were, if I saw them coming. But I would go along with this one thing. I didn't need to sneak out that night. I told my parents I needed some night photos for class, and they let me go. They didn't even question why I was going out so late. They trusted me. And if I was caught on lookout duty, I would most likely be trusted again. I met Jen by the locked gates, but only one guy showed up. The one I had nicknamed Kevin in my head. She gave me a happy wave and another hug, clearly excited over her midnight scheme. Kevin helped her over the stone wall and easily climbed it over himself. It wasn't that high, so it was easy to get over. Then I just stood in front of the gate, waiting. I looked down the road, half expecting to see a car, but nothing showed up. The moon was almost full, giving me enough light to see by. But the cemetery wasn't that far away from a main road, so streetlights dimly lit the area I was standing in. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. I stood in front of the cemetery gate in the dead of night, wishing they would hurry up. It had rained during the day, cooling everything down. I didn't bring a coat and was chilly every time the wind came. I had my camera hanging from my neck and cell phone to text Jen in my hand. I jumped when the phone started to ring. I looked and saw Jen was calling. I wondered what she wanted and picked up. On the other end, I heard muffled voices. "All right?" Kevin asked. "Yeah, just tripped. It's dark as hell out here," Jen replied. She must have fallen and accidentally dialed my number. A harmless butt dial. I was about to hang up, but stopped when they started to talk again. "I don't know why you're even friends with her. She's like really lame," Kevin said. His voice was muffled, so I strained to hear, but I still heard what they were saying. "Yeah, but she has some uses. AJ has a party next weekend. I can talk her into going." "Why bring her to a party?" "AJ's going to have his friends there, and I don't want to deal with them. But if I slip something in her drink, then his friends can be busy with her, and I can just party without dealing with those trolls." I felt sick. There was no way I heard what I just did. Jen, the person I knew and cared about nearly my whole life, didn't say that. If she did, there was no way she meant it. She was just trying to act tough in front of a guy who she wanted to impress. That had to be it. I almost convinced myself of the idea. The phone shook in my hands as it kept pressed painfully against my ear, trying to hear anything else they were saying. "Oh, right. Like that Kate girl, right?" Kevin sounded out of breath, walking, but his words were clear enough. Kate? This couldn't be true. I didn't know her personally, but I knew of her. She was in a grade above us and went missing for a few months. Her body was found in a lake a few towns over. They hadn't formally released what had happened to her, but most said she did it to herself. She had been acting very upset right before she disappeared, but no one knew the reason. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't the one who gave her the stuff, but after what happened, she gave me the idea, Jen answered back. not sounding concerned about the topic of conversation in the slightest. Won't she tell? You know, she feels like the type who would tell. Nah, I've known her my whole life. She won't tell if I ask her not to. Oh look, there's the grave. Let's get the flowers and book it. You can come back to my place and we can... I hung up the phone. Letting myself drop to my knees, I felt sick and dizzy. I wanted to throw up. This wasn't just Jen getting into a little bit of trouble. She saw something happen to Kate. Something that made her take her own life. Something she was perfectly happy having it happen to me. They didn't say what it was, but they didn't need to. It was easy to figure it out. My knee-jerk reaction was to go to the police. I had to, but I had no proof. It was my word against all of theirs. I swore then I would gather any evidence I could and turn them in. It may take a while, but I had to do it. That night, my best friend was dead to me. I gathered myself the best I could. I expected Kevin and Jen to come back out to meet me, but Jen just sent me a text saying they took a different way out and were heading home. She also asked if she had called me. I told her it was a pocket dial and I couldn't hear anything but breathing. She accepted the lie. After all, I had never lied to her in my entire life. Why start now? I started to walk home planning ways of getting them to confess and run through ideas in my head. It soon turned out that I didn't need to turn Jen into the cops. She went missing the next day. At first, they thought she had just stayed overnight at AJ's place, but he hadn't seen her. They asked all of her friends, but no one admitted to seeing her. Because of Jen's disappearance, the story about Kate got out. When some officers arrived to the place of one of the guys who assaulted Kate, he thought it was because of that. He had been so stressed after hearing she had been found dead, he spilled his guts out to the cops about what happened, and even handed over a video of what happened that night. He didn't know Jen was missing when they showed up, and they didn't tell him that was the reason why they came over, for some questioning, but they were glad to solve one case. The entire thing turned into a mess. Now they were trying to round up everyone that had been at that party, but Jen was still missing. After a week, the cops finally got back to me and asked me to look at the last photo that had been taken on Jen's phone, asking if I knew anything about it. When I saw it, I knew what had happened to her, but I couldn't tell them. You wouldn't believe me. The photo was dark and blurry, nearly impossible to make out, but I could see it. A woman with long hair covering her face on the ground, and a pale hand reaching out towards the camera. Jen had taken the roses from the woman's grave, and she came back to find them. Instead, she took Jen. I couldn't explain why in that moment I was so certain of that fact, even after going my whole life not believing in ghosts. It was a crazy thought, I knew it was, but I still found myself sneaking out, going to the cemetery alone at midnight, and climbing over the wall. It was stupid, I knew it was. There were no way ghosts were real. Jen just ran away because she knew the news about Kate was going to lead to arrests. Or she didn't believe me when I lied and said I heard her say nothing on the phone. But I had to make sure. I stalked through the dark graveyard, palms sweating and knees shaking. I forced myself to keep going. I had come during the day to find the grave beforehand, so I knew where it was. But I was so scared it was taking me double the time to find it again. My throat closed up in fear when I saw it. A bundle of red and white roses cluttering the front of the tombstone. Slowly, I pressed on, stopping right in front. Gathering all my courage, I reached out and took a single rose away from the rest and waited. The wind blew through the grass, making me shake under my jacket. Aside from that, I heard no sounds, no insects. Nothing moved in the night. When I did hear movement behind me, it made my skin prickle. My body turned to stone and my head refused to look behind me, to look and try and find out what that dragging sound was. As the sound got closer and closer, I could hear breathing, a low breathing turning into a gasping wail. When I thought I couldn't take it any longer, I turned around, falling to my knees, eyes shut, and holding out the rose in front of me. I'm sorry, I just wanted to talk to you. I was surprised I got the words out. My body was shaking. I had never been so afraid in my life, but I still forced my eyes open to see what had been making the noise. I had expected the sight, but it still made my heart stop. A woman with long, dirty brown hair over her face was on the ground so close to me. If she reached out her dirty hand, she could grab me. Dried blood on her skull made her look even darker than it was. Her dress had been beautiful at one point, but it was nearly rotted off. I couldn't see her face. I also didn't see a pair of legs poking out from under her dress. As she dragged herself so close, her dead hands gripped my knees. You have my friend. I know she did something awful. I know she took your roses, but please, can I have her back? I still love her. She's always been my best friend, so please, I'll make sure your grave has roses. Again, I couldn't explain why I was risking everything for Jen. We had grown up together. She had done some horrible things and planned on doing more horrible things. I knew her parents breaking up was just an excuse for her acting out. She wanted to act out. She wanted to do whatever, no matter who she hurt. But I still wanted her back. I felt tears stinging my eyes, and the sadness of losing my friend was washing over the fear of the creature that was looking up at me, her rotting breath making her hair move. Love? A creaking dead voice came. Then she laughed, a horrible rasping laugh, sounding like dead things rubbing together. With a bony, nearly rotted hand, she took the rose I had taken. Have your friend back. No charge. Her voice was choppy and barely audible, but I still could make out what the dead thing was saying. I couldn't believe it. She was giving me back Jen. I smiled despite the situation I was in. The dead woman disappeared from in front of me, and I waited. I didn't have to wait long. I screamed when something dropped from the sky and in front of me. I think I sat in utter shock for a few minutes that at the time felt like hours. Endless hours of staring in front of me. At my friend. At Jen's body. Her dead eyes open, looking at me. Her mouth had been stuffed open with roses, and her legs were missing. When I could finally move, I started to scream. I just kept screaming until I lost my voice. The year after was a messy blank of memories. I'm still unsure of what the police decided on, but no one blamed me. At least, I wasn't arrested for her death. And no one wanted to talk about it to me, fearing it would set my anxiety off. This happened a year ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. No matter how hard I try in quiet times, my mind goes back to that night. The night I found out you really should be frightened of the dark. My sister lives in a backwater town, a bit of a drive away. I hadn't gone to see her in such a long while. I decided to use my week vacation to drop by. I was bringing over gifts and clothing I had outgrown for her. She's a fantastic cook. Spending a week having some good home-cooked meals and no reliable internet is just what I needed. I packed up and got on the road pretty excited for my week away. But I had been so busy tying up loose ends for my trip, I got going very late in the day. The sun was already setting by the time I got on the highway. She knew I was going to get in late. I might arrive by 1 a.m.,
and I would call her when I was close, and she would greet me by the door. I found myself on a dark highway surrounded by farmland for miles. When it wasn't farmland, the highway cut through dense trees. While I was driving, I saw something I never thought I ever would. Something that made me pull over. Speeding along, I saw a figure walking along the side of the road, my headlights reflecting off the white sweater they were wearing. It was a small figure, so I felt safe stopping and at least looking to see if they needed help. In my entire life, I had never seen someone just walking along the side of the highway. I hadn't seen a house for a long time or a car that had been pulled over. I had no idea where this person came from or where they were trying to go. I stopped my car and got out, trying to get a good look at the person in the dark. They had also stopped when I pulled out in front of them. I lifted my hand and gave a weak wave and got one back. "Do you need help?" I called out and waited. When I didn't hear anything, I started to walk towards them. It wasn't a good idea for a short woman like myself to approach a stranger on the side of the road. It could be an ambush, but my brain wasn't thinking about that. I was concerned because the figure was clearly a child. When I got close enough to see, I could tell he couldn't be older than 13. I was guessing it was a boy, but it was hard to tell with the baggy clothing and shoulder-length wavy hair. White wavy hair. I had my cell phone out and was using the flashlight function on it to see if the boy was hurt. I stopped a few steps away from him and he looked up at me. One side of his face was covered by his hair, but one red eye looked back at me. I froze in fear for half a second, but mentally berated myself for such a reaction. The boy's hair now made sense. He was albino. I never personally met someone with that condition, but I had seen it in photos. "Would it be possible to get a lift to the next town over?" the boy asked in such a low and soft voice, even standing as close as I was. I could barely hear him. "Of course. What are you on the side of the road for, sweetie? Come on, get in the car. I have some water." He followed behind me silently. He wasn't carrying anything, and the odd thing was, he wasn't wearing any shoes either. It was just so strange. I had to call the police. I knew that, but I wanted to make sure he was alright first. He climbed into the passenger seat so I could see him more clearly. He was so pale, his skin almost looked silver. In a few years, he would be very handsome. I was glad I was the one to pick him up. He looked so small and frail, he would have no chance with someone with bad intentions. I gave him a bottle of water and let him drink before asking more questions. "What's your name?" I asked. "I'm Nicky," I added, my name in, thinking that he would be more comfortable if he knew it. "Ellie." Again, he spoke so softly I could barely hear him. I at least got a name out of him. I needed some more answers, though. "What were you doing on the side of the road? Do you have someone I should call?" I asked as nicely as I could, hoping it would make him speak some more. "I'm heading to the next town to meet an acquaintance. He's an officer. I have no one you can contact. If it's possible, it would be nice to get a ride to the police station, but please do not go out of your way for myself." At least he was a polite kid. I debated on what I should do. He wasn't injured, and he wanted to be taken to the police. If that was the case, I could just drive him and not bother calling someone to pick him up. It really wouldn't be any trouble to myself, and he wasn't a threat to me either. He was so small, even if he pulled a weapon, even I could swat it away. I decided to take him where he needed to go. "Alright, I'll take you. Are you sure there isn't anyone I can call?" I asked once more. He only shook his head. Either way, the poor kid really didn't have any family, or he was running from them. At least he was on the way to some help, so I decided not to press the matter. I started up the car and put in directions in my phone to the police station he wanted, and we were on our way. The whole thing was a bit weird, but not supernatural weird. That came after. Ellie didn't talk while we drove. The poor kid must have been so exhausted from walking, he nodded off. I was glad he trusted me enough to nap right beside me. I would send a message to my sister later telling her I would be late. We drove in silence for a little while when I saw yet another thing I never expected to see. A car just sitting in the middle of the road. I saw it soon enough that I slowed down and stopped a few feet from it, just staring at the odd sight. We were on the highway, but it was the dead of night and I saw no cars. Plus, any cars coming up behind us would see both cars stopped soon enough to brake safely. The car had the driver's side door open and the passenger door open. It sat on a strange angle, idling. When I reached to undo my seatbelt and get out to see what was going on, I felt a small hand on my arm and it made me jump. Keep driving. Ellie's voice was so stern it froze me in my place. It was no longer the voice of the softly spoken child I had heard before. But, but someone could be hurt, I stammered, not knowing how to react. They're already dead. My mind couldn't process those words. I suddenly started to question who I had let into my car, and if I was safe. But my rational mind said that the car in the middle of the road was a trap. Once I got out, I could be dragged into the middle of the woods by whoever put the car there to start with. Movement made me pull my gaze away from Ellie and to the road. Out from the front of the car, a large dog came trotting out, staring at us. At first, I thought it was a breed of husky, but it took me a few moments to realize my mistake. That wasn't a dog, but a wolf. I had never seen a wolf in person before. They were much bigger than I ever thought. Its yellow eyes stared us down, waiting for us to react. Then another came from the trees. This whole thing was crazy. My mind couldn't put the two facts of a car in the middle of the road and wolves wandering around it. Wolves weren't native to the area. Coyotes maybe, but not wolves. If the car was placed to ambush people, then why were wolves in the area? I didn't understand any of it. I understood less when the wolf by the car started to stand up. My throat closed up and my body tensed up as I saw the creature seamlessly turn from a wolf, just standing on its back legs, to a hulking, monstrous form that towered in the darkness before us. Drive, Ellie ordered, and his hand gripped into my arm, hurting just enough to bring myself back. I don't understand, I said, still a little dumbfounded. Silver King, oh Silver King, a pleasure running into you here. Come out to greet us. The figure standing in the road roared at us in a booming voice and outstretched its clawed arms in greeting. It was covered with dark, rough fur with a body similar to a man. Its head was large but looked like the wolf that had been looking at us seconds before. Its legs were the same as the wolf also, and I wondered how it was even standing. Behind it, a tail nearly half the size of its body moved back and forth. Is that a werewolf? I asked, the idea sounding completely insane. Monsters weren't real. They just weren't. I couldn't believe that I was seeing, but it was in front of me, standing there beckoning us out. I looked over at Ellie, expecting him to disagree or even call me crazy. But I only saw a look on his face saying not to ask him, to say the ridiculous truth out loud. Before I could ask again, the creature outside spoke. Come out. We have such treats tonight. On its odd legs, it walked over to the idling part and easily ripped the back door off so he could reach in and bring something out. My blood froze when I saw he was holding a stuffed rabbit. A child had been inside that car. My head started to swim and I felt sick. Again, my hand went to my seatbelt, even though I had no idea how I could help in any way. I told you they are already dead. Do not leave this car. I cannot protect you, Ellie warned in his gravely stern voice. Didn't he just call you the Silver King? What's that about? I demanded in a low hiss. That is my title. I am the king of them, the king of everything born in the moonlight or the dark. And as I could easily kill them, I cannot do so in order to protect a human. I am their king, not yours, so stay in the car. I couldn't help but stare silently and helpless at this boy. He no longer looked like the weak and frail child I had picked up on the side of the road. He looked more frightening than the monster outside, but I couldn't help but trust him. His hand gripped into my arm one last time, then slowly pulled back. He was done warning me. If I got out, I would be killed. I may have already been killed if I hadn't picked him up. Those monsters, those werewolves could rip car doors off. I was idling and nothing was stopping them from dragging me out of the car to rip me apart. Nothing aside from who was sitting next to me. But I still felt like I just couldn't leave. I turned my attention to the dark beast still in the road, teeth gleaming in the moonlight, a cruel smile over what him and his pack had already done. Without a second thought, I got the car out of park and slammed down on the gas. Ellie was jerked forward in his seat as my car sped forward directly towards the monster in front of us. The thing could have jumped out of the way, but I think he wasn't expecting it and his reaction had been delayed. My car slammed into the werewolf, knocking him back. I expected more damage to both him and the car, but we got off pretty alright. That was until I pulled the car in reverse and ran directly over the creature's legs. It's howling in pain. It wasn't good for my junker of a car, but it was worse off for the wolf. I could only risk running over it once. I saw more of the wolves in the woods glaring at us. Slamming on the gas once more, we sped off, leaving the monster with a set of broken and twisted legs in the road. Even as I drove, I could see that his legs were healing and snapping back into place. I doubted I did any lasting damage, but I was sure I hurt its pride. The others in the woods could have caught us before we got away, but my passenger must have scared them enough to stay away. We were silent for a very long time, as I drove along the empty road, listening to my car make grinding noises from time to time. Was that stupid? I asked finally. Yes, but justified. I wanted to laugh. The whole night had just been so out there, I didn't know what else to do. But I held it in, thinking it would be in poor taste. Once my racing heart slowed down, I noticed I was going well over the speed limit. I thought to slow down, but would rather the ticket instead of those creatures catching up. Ellie didn't talk to me again until we arrived at the police station. Are those things going to find me? I asked slowly. No, I doubt it. They're unaware of your relationship with me. If you had some future use and they killed you, I would be very upset with them. And creatures of the night do not wish to upset me. I sighed in relief, but it came too soon. However, since you have encountered something like them, you are more likely to encounter something else you humans would call supernatural. You're almost guaranteed to be killed by a supernatural threat after surviving the first one. I'm unsure of when that shall happen. It could be when you're 100, or it could be a week from now. Going by your luck, seeing as you came across myself and a pack of wolves in the same night, I think you don't have a long life. I should have been worried about my bleak outlook, but I couldn't help but want to laugh again by Ellie apparently being embarrassed calling them werewolves. I wonder why he disliked it so much. Is there anything I could do about that? I asked, hoping for a good answer. Enjoy the life you have left. You humans could die at any second. You just so happen to know the most likely reason why you are to perish. I would suggest not to fear it. Just live the way you would. It wasn't the answer I was hoping for, but I would take it. My face fell trying to figure out what my life would be like from now on. How I would be able to live knowing there were things in the dark just waiting for me. Ellie noticed my face and let out a small sigh. He looked from me and the police station we were parked in front of. You did me a favour, so I shall grant you one in return. If you come across something of the night, and if you don't have time to do so, tell them you are useful to the Silver King. However, you may only use my name once, and I do not promise the thing you face shall spare you. It only gives you a better chance of survival. I didn't know much about this world, but even I could tell that was a great big favour he was giving me. I was thankful for it. Just dropping his name may give me a few more years onto my life. He saved me twice that night, and all because I gave him a ride. Thank you, I gave him a smile, and watched as he got out of the car. I waited until he was on the steps of the police station out of habit. He could handle himself, but I still wanted to make sure he got safely inside. I sent my sister a message saying I was a bit late, and I was going to be there soon. Then I drove off, leaving the odd child behind. Since then, I hadn't seen anything strange. I sold my car while I stayed at my sister's place and got a new one, just in case a certain wolf remembered what hit him when I drove back home. I didn't tell my sister what happened, aside from finding a kid on the side of the road and turning him in. There was a report of a car found on the highway, but I didn't want to know any more information about it. I didn't want to know who was lost that night, and how I couldn't do anything to help. I still can't help but wonder how Ellie is doing, and who he was meeting that night. But it's best if I never see him again, and never find these answers.